Welcome back to another spill drop tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to build the new Hotbox base, a small flank base that houses both the Superforge module and a charcoal generator module. So that's 24 of the electric industrial furnaces and 15 of the low-grade based furnaces. You can rapidly smelt any metal or sulfur, as well as generate the necessary charcoal to fuel your raiding ambitions. This base is a small footprint designed to fit within a larger compound or serve as a flank base. Right here, we're looking at the electrical brain of the Superforge, powered by a large battery. In my design, I've used solar panels to generate enough power for this system, but if you wish, you can use whatever's available to you. There's a total of 100 rust watts per minute coming out of the battery into the branch down here at the bottom. From there, we branch off 24 rust watts per minute for extra use around the base. You can run a couple of turrets off of that circuit if you'd like. The remaining 76 rust watts per minute flows into this switch. This switch will turn the Superforge on and off, so if you don't have anything going into the Superforge, you can turn it off so that way it's not using the power. This counter up here above this branch outputs 4 rust watts per minute. This is for the 4 conveyors that we'll be using for this system. The remaining 72 rust watts per minute feed into this branch. That branches off 27 rust watts per minute to this splitter right here. The additional power flows down into this branch here, where an additional 27 rust watts per minute are output to this splitter right here. The remaining power flows down into this branch down here, where 9 rust watts per minute are passed through to these 2 splitters here. These 2 splitters up top output 9 rust watts per minute from each output to these 6 splitters. Now these lower 8 splitters will output 3 rust watts each per node to each of the 24 electric furnaces in the system. And on this side, we have what I like to call the guts of both the Superforge module and the charcoal generator module. Now this section down here along the bottom, where you see the yellow pipes, will be the input for the system. So these lower barrels here are where you will be depositing uncooked ore, unsmelted sulfur, any wood that you may want to be turning into charcoal. That will flow through these adapters down along the bottom of the barrels and into this splitter. Now this industrial splitter then feeds into a combiner further down over here and into a drill module right here. My good friend Tinkerer Red showed me this module, and I would certainly encourage you to give it a try. This drill module makes the transfer from these barrels into the Superforge and the charcoal generator significantly faster. That drill module then enters this combiner, which then enters into another sort of half-baked drill module here, where it again will feed back into the system and output to both the charcoal generator here and the Superforge module here. These 2 modules will output to their respective conveyor here and into a combiner here, where they will then be deposited into these barrels. That is how these systems work. This is a very basic layout of how these components come together. The way that I'm going to build these 2 modules will look slightly different, but I want to make this as clear as possible. I would recommend trying these on a build server, as they are very time intensive. So with that in mind, let's get to the building process. What we're going to do is we're going to start with 2 squares. Add your 3 triangles like so, and an additional triangle off that side. Next, add triangles here, 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 and here, and then add squares on these corners. And this is the footprint for the new Hotbox furnace base. It's going to house a Superforge right here and a charcoal generator right here. We've got our tool cupboard going down right here. We have our battery and storage over here, and then a shop right over here. Let's get into it. there's your shop front room here. And once you get to the point where you'll start to want some honeycomb for your base, you can add a little bit like I've done here. Even a layer on top of the roof doesn't hurt. I'm going to use the hard side stone wall here because it'll give us a little bit of extra room to squeeze this shelf in here. Get our shelf in. Now we're going to want to get our barrels down. It's important to do this before you have a door frame, as the door frame can make the final placements for these upper barrels very challenging. Alright, we want to get that as far in as we can. Looks like we did pretty good there. Okay, now we should be able to put the frame in. Like so. Next, we're going to want to put our battery in, push him up in this corner here, just as far over as he can go, and we should be able to put adapters on the front of all of these. You can get a better placement than what I've done here, where it's impossible to loot the barrel through this garage door, but for the sake of expediency and to show you that, you know, not everything is perfect, we're going to go ahead and roll with it. Don't forget to flip your wall once you're done with it there, so you don't leave it hard side facing in. Now we've got the battery, we've got our storage for the Super Forge and the charcoal generator module. We have a storefront module over there as well for some pretty basic commerce, if that's something you're looking for. And we've got our tool cupboard here. This is not the most secure tool cupboard design, but you can pass directly from this module to this module and through to the charcoal generator and storefront module right through this window, rather than having to go all the way outside and around the base. Go ahead and get an inner door here. And I would recommend upgrading at least these inner doors to armored as soon as you can, so that way you're better protecting your tool cupboard, as this is a, 3-ish door raid to TC right now from either direction. Before we begin placing the Super Forge module, we're going to want to make sure that we've got power to the system and the power grid all set up. So to start, we're going to want to put down the input power for the system. By connecting the outputs into the inputs of each of these combiners, you create a daisy chain that allows you to clip new power sources into the system more easily, and all of those power sources will funnel down to the last combiner here, which will plug directly into your battery. When placing your solar panel, make sure that you're aware of the cardinal directions, primarily east and west, but also you must be aware of how much time has elapsed since the wipe started. If this is day 1, the path that the sun takes through the sky is going to be different than on day 7. So it's important to keep this in mind when you're placing your solar panels. I recommend placing them so that they'll be facing the sun as much of the day as possible. If you're in the southern part of the map like we are here, you may want to point your solar panels north so that you get the sunrise and the sunset. Connect your solar panels output node here to the input nodes on the combiners. And so on. We've connected our solar panels to our battery. Now we want to take the power from this battery and run it into our Super Forge and charcoal generator systems, taking the primary power off of the battery, feeding into a switch to run the entire process, then into our 2 primary branches and our primary splitters, which also includes this branch here. Let's get these all wired in. Now we will have 9 rust watts per minute coming from each of these 6 output nodes and from each of these 2 branch nodes. Now for the furnaces, you're going to want to put your splitters down here along the wall by the TC. And that works beautifully, just like that. Now you're going to want to connect these to your splitters up here. And there you have it, all of the connections for the primary power supply of the Superforge. We'll have our 2 input conveyors on this side and our output conveyors back here. We'll also go ahead and snap an adapter onto the tool cupboard while we're here. Now, before I get to the Superforge, if you've been enjoying this video so far and you want to see more videos like this, then you should consider subscribing. Pretty easy to do. There's a button right over there. Now let's get back to the video. Next, we're going to want to begin placing the electric furnaces and getting them connected to the industrial system. Be patient and trust the process. Now to start, upgrade these wood walls to stone and flip them so the hard side is facing in. That will give us the largest working space for getting these placements. Go ahead and take your first electric furnace and wedge it into this corner as best you can. It can help to try to align the top edge of the furnace on the right hand side with the wall that it is sliding up against. Getting that as close to the wall as you can will make sure that the later placements are a little bit easier on you. Go ahead, check your placement, make sure that it looks okay from both sides, and get your adapter on the front. And get our power node here and wire it in to our splitters. Now we're going to want to get our next furnace placed and then squeeze it back up against this furnace here. You want them both facing the same direction, so they'll both be facing to the right. Go ahead and put your adapter on there and wire it in. Now we're going to get our final furnace placed here, like so. Now you can tell that this was a pretty good placement if it's pretty flush in that corner along that edge, and you can still place your adapter on the side here. Now we're going to want to go ahead and connect these industrials together and get this one wired in. Now we're going to want to go ahead and jump up to the next floor and get these placements the exact same way. Make sure that we get our back row finished first, so we can flip this wall back to the soft side. Once you've got these ones all placed, go ahead and get them wired in as well. Once you've done that, you should be able to either rotate this wall to its soft side facing in, or upgrade it to metal, and then you should also be able to flip it. That looks good. Now let's go ahead and connect this lower level to the top level of the Superforge. One thing that will be necessary here is adding your wall frame for your eventual garage door. Make sure you've got the frame here. It can just be twig for now if you wish. Just like that, you've got the upper and lower systems connected. Let's go ahead and continue adding additional furnaces. And then we're going to connect the industrial system as follows. Then we're going to connect this output to the back row as the input source for that row. These placements may start to get a little bit challenging depending on how you've built this base. If that's the case, then it may help to place this furnace here first to make sure that you can get your placements. Oh, and those splitters are just gone. Occasionally, you'll come into the issue where you don't have quite enough space. For example, this splitter here is blocking the final placement for this furnace, which simply won't do. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to move these connectors over to another splitter and then re-add these splitters down the line. Right-click to take that connector. We're going to push it down to this output over here. Now, placing these electrical components on this bar does make them much more unstable. Live and learn, okay? We're going to disconnect this guy here, and we're going to have him flow right on over to that splitter there. A little bit different, but it's still going to work just fine, and we're going to pick this guy up and get him out of the way. Now for the final row of furnaces, and this can be really tough. For this, we're going to want to go ahead and get the wall frame up to at least wood, so it's a little bit flatter. Connect this guy to the back row before putting down that final furnace. So then we're going to place this furnace. This is now the primary input point for the Super Forge. Now let's go ahead and get our top row all put together. And then for the back row, you'll want to sort of reverse the direction that the industrials are connected. The flow is going to be coming from the back of the shelf forward. Like so. You'll do the same with this node on the next row. It can help to put down a frame here. It gives you a little bit of extra space to stand on. And for our last two rows of furnaces, we're going to connect this branch to these two splitters up here. And then we'll get our last row of furnaces placed. Then we'll add our middle furnace. It can help to use a box or something like that to stand on with this final placement. And once those are all connected, you'll upgrade this wall here to sheet metal and flip it to the hard side facing out. Now you have the input node here and the output node here for your new Super Forge module. You can upgrade this to sheet metal, get a garage door placed, and now it is much quieter. Let's go ahead and get our industrial system put together. We'll start with a splitter. Then it flows into a combiner, which flows into another splitter, into another combiner, and finally into another splitter. We're going to connect our barrels together here, and then connect them to our Super Forge and charcoal generator modules. One of these outputs will go straight in to this combiner, to then go into this splitter, and so on. One of these outputs will go all the way up here to this combiner, and then the two outputs on this splitter are going to feed back into this combiner here to form the drill module. One of these outputs will extend the drill module up to this combiner up here, and then these two output nodes will feed our industrial systems for the charcoal generator and the super forge, respectively. Take the red off for the super forge. This conveyor will pull the raw material into the super forge. This conveyor here will pull the raw material in for the charcoal generator. While we still have a little bit of time left here, we're going to want to lay the foundations for the charcoal generator as well. It's important that we get to it while we still have the ability to flip this wall around. So this is a very time-sensitive process, but since this design is more focused on the super forge, I went ahead and started there. But as long as you do this relatively quickly, you should still be able to flip this wall back around and have it face hard side in on this side. For the furnace placements, we're going to start in these triangles. You want to get your furnaces pushed back as far as you can into this triangle. I've found that leaving this floor frame twig is the best and arguably the only way to make sure that you can get your furnaces to all fit. Now you'll want to get these ones snuggled in here as well, and on this side just the same. Get these up to stone for now, and we can do the soft side. The other thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and get these furnaces all connected, because this back furnace is going to be very difficult to reach. Let's go ahead and get our furnaces placed. We're going to start with this corner here. Try to get it as snug as you can in this corner. Then we'll place this furnace here. Let's go ahead and get our industrials connected. And then you may have more luck placing your furnaces from on top of the previous row. I've noticed that that can give you some pretty decent angles for these placements. That's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and put garage door down. And connect it to the conveyor that we set up on the other side. Then we'll take the output for our Superforge system. We'll run it into our output conveyor for the system. Okay, make sure the filter's set to wood. I'm going to make some adjustments here. We'll need a buffer box for this system to work. So I'm going to set a max amount of 1,000 wood for the target container. That means that each furnace and the buffer box at the end of the circuit will all have 1,000 wood. That way the box won't overfill and the furnaces will still be able to be stuffed all the way to the top. We'll just put a stack of wood in the buffer box before we begin, and that'll act as the sacrificial stack. This is going to be our buffer box for the system. And it will feed directly into that furnace. That'll move the charcoal out of that system and into our barrels for collection. The charcoal generator will feed into a combiner along with the super forge, which will then flow back out into the loot system. And that is the fully connected system. Now let's go ahead, let's match this up to the diagram. Output will be red. Okay, and then of course we can connect all of these together so that there's a little bit more storage. That is our full system completely connected. Let's go ahead and give it a try. We'll start by making our donation. 1,000 wood into the buffer box. And then let's go ahead, get this thing filled up. Alright, it's starting to move. So that means it should be filling up those furnaces in there. These ones obviously don't need any of it. Alright, the ore is starting to move. Now, unfortunately with this server, when you reset it, sometimes the power is a little funky, so that's probably why nothing's really working. I kind of wish that it would. Let's set this to metal, or yeah, this should be... Okay. For an igniter for this system, I recommend placing a switch somewhere on this wall. Now, it can be tricky to get an igniter that will light all 15 of these furnaces, but we're going to give it a try. It's the igniter here. Take a look at these. Things are going okay. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Well, that was pretty good. It got all of them except for that one back there and this one over here. So that's pretty dang good. I'd recommend, if you're having trouble getting all of these ignited, you can add separate igniters in these little pods on the side, or you can just place another igniter back in this corner, which should also do the trick. Just like that, all of your furnaces are lit and making charcoal. That's how you get them all ignited and cooking along. Again, you do need this buffer box in order for the system to connect to the conveyor. I know that's not ideal, but it's a pretty good way to make sure that you're still getting the maximum efficiency out of these modules. Now, in the top right corner, we're looking at the total cost to build the Hotbox base. As you can see, not a crazy expensive base. You can see the total upkeep for the base here. If you decide you want to armor more of this base, that cost is going to go up pretty heavily in these two departments. But all in all, quite a cheap base to build. This thing won't be winning any awards for defendability, but you can't deny that it is quite a useful and utilitarian base. So go ahead, give this build a try on a build server. Let me know how it treats you. I can't wait to hear about your adventures in the Hotbox. Massive thank you to my subscribers and everybody who clicks the like button on this video. It really helps other people find these videos. So thank you again for watching. My name is Spilldrop, and I will catch you in the next video.